Hey everybody, you're watching We the Fandom, where we discuss comic books, pop culture, and the fandom experience. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content. How's it going, everybody? Jacob here at We the Fandom, and today is New Comic Book Day. Um, to be honest, even with the what I believe is kind of a lack of quality in a lot of modern comics, this week actually had a few comics that were tied up, but I decided to go with Thor #8. And the cool thing about this is you can kind of not know what's happened recently in the Thor comics to kind of follow along. But I'll give a quick recap. So basically, right now, Thor is king of Asgard. Odin is gone. And ever since he became king of Asgard, Thor has found that his hammer, Mjolnir, has become heavier every single time he lifts it, as well as the fact that apparently anyone can lift the hammer now. I'm not sure if the worthiness enchantment is still applicable, but a few issues back, he found out that Loki was able to lift the hammer, and now pretty much anyone can. And so in this issue, he's basically testing out his theory by he sent threw Mjolnir down to Broxton, Oklahoma, which Oklahoma, probably like a decade back, used to be where Asgard was. Basically, Asgard had been rebuilt after being destroyed and was floating above Broxton, Oklahoma. So he sent his hammer down there, and it went into the hands of a mechanic named Adam. And when he sent his hammer down, he had written the phone number of Tony Stark, Iron Man, so that whoever found it, they would call Tony Stark. But when Tony Stark showed up, Adam had already picked up the hammer and basically turned into a version of Thor, which I like to call Diabetes Thor, because he looks like I think the guy's name is Wolford Brimley, the guy who did the diabetes commercials. But yeah, so basically, this guy turned into a version of Thor. Thor himself came back to pick up his hammer. Of course, Tony Stark was angry, partially because he threw the hammer down to Broxton, Oklahoma, which basically attracted a giant news crew, as well as the fact that Thor wrote his phone number on the hammer for everyone to see. And so now people all over the world have Tony Stark's personal phone number. And so when he does that, Diabetes Thor decides to give Mjolnir back. Right before that happens, Tony Stark swipes it and basically angry for this whole situation, decides to smack Thor in the face with it, which, Mjolnir in hand or not, I would say is a very terrible decision. And although Tony Stark's anger might have been justified, we get to see Thor's response. That's not the right one. Thor's response basically steps up to him, and remember the fact that right now Thor is king of Asgard, so he basically has, on top of wielding Mjolnir and being the god of thunder, he also wields the power that Odin used to wield. And so he goes up to Tony Stark and says, "Do not mistake wielding my hammer for wielding my power. Mjolnir or not, I am still a god, and you are a tin man in the middle of a lightning storm." And so Tony Stark basically says, well, yeah, I guess that's a pretty good argument. Basically realizing that even though he holds the hammer in his hand, there's no way he would possibly beat Thor. And they kind of make up. Thor apologizes for putting his phone number on the hammer. Tony Stark promises that he'll keep the secret about basically anyone being able to pick up the hammer, because as of right now, the only people who know about it are people in Asgard, Tony Stark, and the guy Adam, the mechanic who picked up the hammer in the first place. Nobody else in the world knows, and that's a good thing, because you might have villains come up like Doctor Doom or the Red Skull or somebody who could pick up the hammer and possibly wield the power of Thor. And so Thor basically talks to Adam, and he says, "I owe you a favor," and the favor he cashes in immediately, that being he wants Thor to teach him how to fly with the hammer, which he does. Has a little fun flying, and they go back to the ground, and Adam basically gives him some advice about kind of a simple solution to problem that we all face, in which he says, things like mechanics and even your hammer, oftentimes the answer is to just turn it off, then turn back on again. And Thor kind of takes that to heart and comes up with an idea, which basically is a cliffhanger and leads into the next issue, which foreshadows him meeting Donald Blake. And the kind of backstory of that is that originally in the Thor comics, Thor, if you had seen the first MCU movie, Odin banished Thor to Earth without his hammer and took away his powers. And so Thor was kind of just a regular man. But in the comics, he was taking the name Donald Blake, and he was a medic of some sort. And basically, he found a staff in a cave in Norway, I believe. And every time he pounded that staff on the ground, he turned back into Thor. Now, for a while, Donald Blake was just the alter ego of Thor. But at some point, they kind of retcon this multiple times where Odin would separate Thor and Donald Blake into basically being two separate people. And so Donald Blake was basically his own human being. And so for the past, I would say 15 years about, Donald Blake has been his own human being living his own life as a medic in New York. And Thor has been separated from him. And I'm guessing this next story arc is obviously going to center on Thor speaking with Donald Blake about, the relationship, about the fact they used to share a body and share the powers of Thor. And I'm guessing he's going to kind of use the relationship to try to figure out what's wrong with him and why his hammer is acting the way it is. But that was today's comic book review. It's definitely a recommend, and I would actually go back and check out all of the Thor run from Donny Cates, who's the current writer. It's really interesting, and I'm excited to see the new story arc. But yeah, definitely a recommend for this week. Again, there were a number of comics that were tied with this one, but I would say this one was the best so far. So there you go. If you guys are new to the We the Fandom, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. If you enjoyed this video, please smash the like, and I will see you all next.